pass from Havili was magic. The shift on for Crotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith. Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy the show.
The Argentinian team definitely doesn't lack any huge men, does it? Speaking of the Argentinian men, they're up against the Kiwis this weekend. And before we go to the Argentinian side of the equation that we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, what do you see from the New Zealand approach? You know, and I'd love to hear a completely different opinion than my own because I hear myself talk too much. I think Scott Barrett, Hoskins Tutu, maybe Nepo Laulala are some obvious inclusions that they could look at. How do you see it unfolding from New Zealand? How do they try and counter this defensive wall that seems to be almost impenetrable at the moment?
Sure. I think the All Blacks are obviously all of the players are excellent. They're all world class. The one thing I would say is about Barrett, Bolden Barrett at fullback. Is that what we should be doing? You know, Argentina did that for a long time. Hernandez, because the whole idea was, oh look, you know, this guy has to start, but we also have this other good guy here, and no one that good there. But Argentina is different than the All Blacks in that regard because New Zealand does have the good players everywhere. So I think they need to fix that. And also number 8. I mean.
Well, hold on, Paul. What would you do? We're very deeply divided on this topic. Right. I said that the two boys love Richie Mo'unga and think he has to start. I personally would be happy to start Beauden Barrett and have Richie Mo'unga on the bench. I think even if you've got 2 world-class 10s, one of them you can put one on the bench. Where do you sit on that equation? I
think today I would start Beauden Barrett, but in a couple of years I don't think that would be the case.
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Because I think about Dan Carter. I mean, he shouldn't have been playing 2015, but he did. And they had Barrett and other players, but basically Barrett got some starts against Argentina in the 2013-2014 period. But Carter was playing South Africa and the Wallabies. And so, I mean, that's what they should be doing. That should be the attitude as I see it. Also, Jordy Barrett, what's his position? Not a wing.
Fullback.
Fullback.
He's not a winger.
Even the All Blacks coach said Jordy Barrett's the best fullback in New Zealand, and yet he's not playing fullback. So
you said Argentina have done it for a number of years. This is one thing that the Wallabies, you know, got tore apart in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, playing people out of position, just trying to get your best players on the park, put them in different positions. And I don't think it's working for the All Blacks at the moment. You know, we've got, as you were about to touch on, Ardie Savea is just world class. But there's the balance at that back row isn't there yet at the moment for me with Kane and Ardie, and Frizzell hasn't really been stepping up. But I think there's going to be a couple changes. I think we've got to see Scott Barrett back in for Tupavaya. Scott Barrett was injured, was he?
No.
Or was he just starting Tupavaya? That's crazy for me, to be fair. But so onto the Argentine lineup. You were touching on it before. So we know Immerhoff's not going to be there. Do we think Sanchez is going to be rested? And if so, do we see Miotti come in, or how do you see that playing out?
That's what I suspect. We're going to know on tomorrow, Tuesday. We're going to know exactly what's happening there. Right. Because Miotti was unable to play in the first 2 matches based on injury. Nothing serious. He got a knock in the warm-up against Australia 15. So simply they opted, looked at what they had and said, look, Carreras is going to cover fly half. We're going to have other players on the bench. It worked out fine in the end, didn't it? However, it almost didn't because Bofelli, of course, was on after 15 minutes for Imhoff. So that was problematic. So, I mean, I would be very surprised if Sanchez does again start. Ledesma did say that he's going to rotate. He hasn't made it clear who he's talking about. He did say that he needs to assess how the players are. That probably is what happens today in training. Tomorrow, again, that's when we're going to get a good look at who the 15 are that he has in mind of starting. There are certain players who haven't played yet who realistically should be there. So I would say Juan Cruz Machia, the center.
That's who I would have thought would be your centre fly half cover.
Right. And I was quite surprised that he wasn't. So obviously that was a game plan decision more than anything.
Yeah.
I think he'll replace Orlando. So it'll be Chocobatic and him. That's what I would guess. Cordero probably start on the wing with him and Delgui. That's probable. Carreras would be fullback again. Bertrand will be scrum half again because, Corbelli's not going to play by the looks of things. So they won't change anything there. The back row and second row may change. I just saw speculations, nothing more than that at the point that Alemano will miss the game. More just on rotation than anything else.
Right.
And so that'll probably mean Crema moves to second row. And so you have maybe Grondana starting at flanker in his position. So the other one is loose head. So Teta Chaparro was not injured, but post-match his name came up as somewhat clouded. So I would suspect Michael Vivas will play loose head. The rest of the team basically as you saw. So you're gonna have Petty, Matera, Chocobares, Carreras. So probably 5 or 6 changes. That's
A lot.
probable. A lot. But they need to. And this is the game to do it. You don't do it for the final match. You do it for the third. Like I've been telling myself, this is a World Cup pool. We're talking about 4 matches. The good thing is it's done correctly. There's no midweek games. There's no 2 games in 4 days or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we could be seeing this. I don't know if you guys have paid attention, but this is exactly what we could get because of the bans for the next World Cup. New Zealand are in the first, Australia the second, Argentina the third. We could get this exact thing in the World Cup. And if that being the case, let's hope that that there is not a riot outside World Rugby headquarters, because this is just
it's a good way to limit, like in 2015, all the Southern Hemisphere teams being in the top 4 teams of the World Cup. Put them all in the same pool. Chuck South Africa in there as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. So Wales are now 9th, and but because of the drawers based on January rankings, they're the top category. So what can you say about that? Obviously, it's not sporting, is it? But hey, the decision has been made, and either way, it's exciting looking forward, obviously, because the win over the All Blacks is now official. And it's a question of when are we going to get another one? And hopefully it's sooner than some others have had to wait. There are certain teams who have not beaten the All Blacks for many, many decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got the 2 big questions, I think, leading up into this game. The first one that I think is staring us all in the face is Argentina's physicality and motivation was so incredibly high in that first game. I think their defensive line was just as good in the second game, but maybe not that same level of aggression and dominance that they showed against the All Black side. Can they keep that up? Can they lift that intensity back to the level that's needed to quieten New Zealand? Because, as Australia showed, if you don't do that, they can put a lot of points on you. How do they actually keep that up? Or do you think they can is the changes enough?
Yeah, I'm divided, to be honest. I definitely think that the intensity, like you mentioned, that was lacking. And when Australia was using the width early as they were, it was like, they really know what they're doing, obviously, and this could be a big win for them. Obviously, Argentina managed to come to hold firm, come back. But I do think the tired legs is evidence, and the coach has said it himself. He was asked post-match who was the better team, and he said, "Oh, Australia was clearly the better team in this match. They had it on us. We were backing up, and it was not only physically but also mentally really hard for the players to come back. They will go to the bench or to the greatest roster for these reasons. I mean, it's just too hard to play this level of rugby repeatedly. And this is one of the things which I think Sam Cane got wrong when he was trying to, tell the All Black supporters, ease off, please. Like he said something along the lines of fans don't know what they're talking about. Well, I mean, can you just be clear with them? Say, look, we've played a lot of matches already, and we were not at our best, and we apologize for that. But the opposition just happened to be very good.
Yeah.
So,
Not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys would sum it up, but that's basically what was my take on it anyway. And
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, I think it's spot on.
Yeah, no, I think that's very good. Look, I think the question that we'd love an answer from is: have you seen anyone find a good counter to that defensive wall, particularly that line speed? We talked about last week, and I think we talked again a little bit about this week. The times when New Zealand has lost over the last few years has been that line speed, in-your-face defence. It's they haven't seemed to come up with a solution to that yet. Have you found anyone? Has there been any teams that have found a solution against Argentina when they've been doing that?
Yeah, well, again, I would say they're. I mean, well, Desmond has said we want to play like Argentina. We don't want to play like other teams, and that's a mistake we have made in the past. And, I mean, when I look at how New Zealand lost the matches, and this has been mentioned, it's not my original. It's not coming from me. It's other people have mentioned it. It's that England, Australia, and Argentina, they all did the same thing to beat the All Blacks. That semi-final match, for example, that's how to beat them. That's exactly what they did. That defense, the arrangement they do. If you look at how England have their defense, for instance, it's not a straight line. It is on an angle. And so when the ball does get passed, the line coming up is actually a straight line in terms of the angle. And that is
guideline. Is that what you're trying to say? It's a
well, I mean, because we've often seen defense coming back and forward together, but they're not doing that now. They've turned it, and so that has literally shut down things. And so the way to expose this, I think we've seen it, is from South Africa in the final. I mean, what they did there was, I mean, they destroyed England in the final, and absolutely. And so I would say that that's what anyone should be trying to look at now to get a grip of where to go, how to defeat this, how to expose it. So the whole concept of why it's working for Argentina is trust the guy outside you. They never used to. I mean, they did, but in two minds. You're no longer seeing the whole idea of the center comes out to the wing, so they've got 2-on-1 out there. Then there's an inside pass, and suddenly there's a try through the middle. That's what we always saw. I mean, for example, the try we had from Australia against Argentina in the 2018 Pumas win, that's what it was. Scrum half got the ball exactly in that way, and support and went through, because you had ultimately a center and a winger marking the one player, and there you go. The support player is able to get through. So the defense now is it's a wall. So how do you beat the wall? I mean, do you kick and chase?
Well, I think that, yeah, I mean, the teams have shown, like, I think we had a few occasions where we were moving forward, we were making our meters, and we'd look to little kicks, we looked to other things that, if done perfectly would have come off.
Right.
there's something in that. I don't think we were too far off the answer on a couple occasions. Just failed to convert it last week. But I think the next thing for the Pumas is definitely, how do they start scoring points with tries, not just off the boot. Regularly against the All Blacks, we normally say you have to score tries. Last week, the All Blacks, or 2 weeks ago, weren't kicking the ball, weren't taking their points when they were on offer. I don't know if you'll see as much of that this week. I think they'll be a little more inclined to take those points, especially early on. But we all know that they can score a try or two at any point in the game from wherever they are. So I think to beat the All Blacks, you have to score a try or two. So where do you see that coming from with the Argentina side this week?
Yeah, they will need to score tries. No question. I mean, I think tries are something which are against good opposition. Tries are constructed. They're not. I mean, sometimes they're based on luck, but ultimately they're the result of phased play, 12, 15, even more than that phases, and then the try. I mean, the try that was scored from Sanchez. I mean, they had advantage. He kicked, got the bounce. I mean, luck, of course, but that was I cannot recall specifically, but we're talking about 15 plus phases.
Yeah.
All Blacks couldn't get the ball, so Pumas were going forward, and that's what basically happened. So,
showing there's a weakness there at that place in that cover. I don't know if it's the 15-10 sort of combination and that 15 slowing behind with Bowden Barrett there, but very similar with less phases of what the Wallabies did there. There was that space just in behind the line.
Yeah, where Reece Hodge got to kick through.
Yeah.
Look, I guess for mine, we've talked about the impressive set piece of the Pumas. I think I've said this a lot over the last year, particularly that I think that particularly New Zealand's scrum is nowhere near up to standard compared to how it has been in recent years. And I feel like Australia playing New Zealand so often, we haven't been able to expose that enough or get the reward that I think we're due. I think the Australian scrum and front row is very impressive. Similarly, I think the Argentine scrum has been very impressive. I don't know, what else do they need to do to push their advantage in that? Obviously, the Pumas will be targeting the line out. That was incredibly successful, but I feel like they need to really, try and seek out scrum penalties and just keep taking more scrum options and really expose that. It's a good way to get a player sent off with repeat infringements.
Absolutely. I think one of the problems from the game this past weekend was that there was a lot. Both captains were not really happy with the breakdown and how it was officiated. And I mean, I'm not going to point fingers here, but ultimately they didn't really know what was going on. So there were from both teams definitely second thoughts about entering and how is this going to be officiated, that kind of thing. I don't think we're going to see that again. So I suspect we're going to see far more physicality at the breakdown from both teams.
Yeah.
Argentina, that's what we will have to do. I mean, I cannot recall a single match where the comments from the experts talking about an All Blacks loss did not mention that they were outmuscled. If maybe they want to say it was dirty play in terms of the '99 World Cup, but I mean, France destroyed them. That's end of story. They destroyed them. Australia destroyed them at the World Cup 2003. So Argentina and the Wallabies, the wins they got over New Zealand this year, they were better. So South Africa is written for everybody in the last, forever, but specifically the last decade. They've shown this is how you beat them. You want to beat New Zealand, you've got to do this. Because the whole idea of All Blacks are going to have faster men to the breakdown. They're going to have quick recycled ball, massive accuracy, and the finishes there. So they're always going to be likely to win by a big score. But we've seen that it's not so simple. I mean, get the physicality there, and the mistakes come. And so that's going to be Argentina's game plan, I suspect. Definitely scrum line out, as you guys mentioned, but also the breakdown, Crema and other guys, but basically that's what they're there for. You don't need to be making massive yards with ball in hand. That's secondary. You're there so you can literally smash the player's back. Yeah. And that's it. And then Matera, Montoya, and others can get over the ball and try to win a penalty.
That brings us to the perfect segue. Who's going to win? Who are you tipping, and by how much?
Ooh, tough.
We're putting him on the spot first.
Yeah, I mean it's too hard to
You can't give that.
to say that Argentina are favorites. I mean, of course they're not. New Zealand are favorites. I always like to see who the teams are going to be first, like who's playing. But I mean, I would pick if New Zealand win by. I don't know specifically how much. I don't think they will get 4 tries, but they need to win this game based on the points and the rest of it, or they simply won't win the tournament, and they're going to be under massive pressure. So I would say 8-point victory is probably likely. What do you guys have?
Harry, what about yourself? What are you tipping?
Look, I think actually Paul convinced me to back New Zealand more heavily, because I think this is the last test of the year for New Zealand, and I think he's right in that Argentina will have to make a number of changes. So they're going to be the team that's a little bit more tired, that's going to be a little bit less organised because they have made those changes. And I can see New Zealand just saying, this is our last game for the year, to really leave an impression of who we are and to right some wrongs that have been made over the last couple of weeks. So I think, probably 12, 14 points is not out of the question. And considering they put pretty much 50 on us, I still think that's a decent effort for Argies on their 3rd game in a row.
Else?
Yeah, I'm on a similar wavelength. I think, especially if we do see 4 or 5 changes to the Pumas, not taking anything away from them. I don't think we'll see necessarily as many changes from the All Blacks. It's hard to do this week after week against the All Blacks. I think we did really, really good week 1 and got them by surprise. Week 2, I don't think we were, inferior for a lot of that game. First half, I think we were right in that, and it sort of got away from us. And maybe it was, a physical week the week before, and now the Pumas have had a couple really physical weeks in a row after not playing so much footy. So Kiwis with the week rest. I'm going to go Kiwis by a couple tries. I'll say 15, just to be different to you.
All right. Well, I forgot what Harry said already, but I will say New Zealand by 12, I think. I think one of the things Paul said earlier, when we first had him on to the pod was that, there's lots of talk about Argentina's win, and I don't think anyone was really calling it lucky, but I think we can say from experience that you can't beat New Zealand with luck. There's no chance of that.
No.
I would love personally for Argentina to beat New Zealand again.
Oh, it'd be great.
Them losing the last game of the year would be enough for the team to completely implode and players to leave overseas every which way, and bring balance back to the universe.
Oh, that'd be good.
But look, we can't. We can only but hope for that. So. One thing I will do in rounding out the podcast, I got so excited when Paul jumped straight on and joined us that I forgot to get after Paul's Twitter handle, which is @AmericasOval. So follow him there if you aren't already. I think there's already about 4,000 people following Paul to get all the news in Argentina and all of South America and America's rugby news. Paul, I see you tweet a lot about the Major League Rugby coming up and a lot of the various competitions. So There's a lot of exciting things, promising things coming up there. And yeah, look, thank you so much for joining us once again. You always educate us with things we didn't know, players that we didn't know, stats we didn't know. It's fantastic having you on, and just like the team themselves, seeing your passion for Argentina.
Oh, mate.
God, I'm really struggling at the end of this podcast. So yeah, look, thank you very much again, and we wish you all the best and Argentina this weekend. I guess I would be remiss if I did leave. The guys will kill me for asking more questions. I have loads more questions, but I have to ask, what has become of one of my favourite players, Manuel Montero? Is he still just playing local rugby? I think he's playing in Paraguay. Is that what's still
right? Yeah, he joined the Olympia Lions, which was the Paraguayan team for the South American Professional League. But no, now he has actually gone to Canada. He's going to be playing Major League Rugby for Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was Tucalet signed there. Did they both sign?
Both, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and they've got also 2 Uruguayans from the World Cup in the back 3, and a couple of other RGs. So pretty interesting for South Americans.
I think this is a great time for South American footy. In America and in Canada, they've gone up and dropped back down a little bit, and South America, I think it's time for them to grow. This is just, these last couple of weeks couldn't be any better in my eyes for not even just Argentina, but yeah, South American footy, with a lot of other sports not on at the moment. It's got to be front and center over there, and hopefully with these players joining Major League Rugby and the South American League, we're going to see the footy over there grow.
That's it.
I just want to give a quick shout out to the knowledge of the man that joins us as well. I remember in the last couple of years, a couple of names that he's thrown out to us where we were completely ignorant was Crema, Bruni, and Chocobares, and we had absolutely no idea who he's talking about, and now they're being raved about around the world for how well they've played in this international season. So, and I've always got my eyes every fantasy footy season to try and see who you're going to name. So I'm hoping that we get a few Argentinians in the Australian squads as being rumoured at the moment, so you can keep kind of dropping in those little nuggets for all of us.
Absolutely. Hopefully the Reds and Waratahs and so on can sign some of these guys because Dalgi, for example, is on the market. Come on, get him.
Take him.
Tars need anyone at the moment. We've got half the squad.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, look, thank you very much once again, Paul, for joining us. And we hope to talk to you probably in a couple of months in the lead up to Super Rugby. So, look, we might not have a Jaguares team, but it sounds like we'll have some Argentinian players to talk about. So,
absolutely,
we would love to for you to join us again. So, thank you very much, and we'll catch you again in the next one.
Thanks, mate.
So yeah.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Paul.